Fair trade is an important aspect of development. It's a key principle that finds protection in the Caribbean Court of Justice as our people engage in regional trade in goods and services. So where unfairness is involved, here's a court to look to for redress. Hello and welcome. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for making it Jamaica Magazine. Coming up in the show, a look at the amount of money to be spent in the new fiscal year to support growth and development in agriculture. Plus, heart-healthy decisions you will want to make to avoid diseases and live longer. Later, get more of the facts on the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ. Sit back and relax for these and much more as we turn the pages of Jamaica Magazine.
The Mapping Jamaica's Diaspora Project, building a database on the human, financial and technological resources of Jamaicans abroad, helping government to connect with Jamaicans in the diaspora for mutual development. Jamaicans living overseas are encouraged to sign up now. Spread the word to family and friends abroad. To take the survey, visit mapjadiaspora.iom.int. Information shared will be kept strictly confidential. Let's work together for our mutual growth and prosperity.
Employers, tired of waiting in long lines at the tax office? Wait no further. Government is making it easier for you to pay taxes. As of January 1, 2015, file your employer's annual returns online. No lines, no hassle. Tax Administration Jamaica TAJ will be implementing the mandatory electronic filing of all employers' annual returns. So get with the program and save time and energy. For more information, call 1-888-TAX-HELP. That's 1-888-829-4357 or visit jamaicatax.gov.jm.
The multi-billion-dollar allocation to the Agriculture Ministry in the 2015-2016 budget is designed to spur growth in the sector. We have a breakdown of the funds and the areas which will be impacted to drive expansion and output in the new fiscal year. Take a look.
In the 2015-2016 fiscal budget, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries has been given more than $4.2 billion to take care of housekeeping matters. It's an increase of more than $282 million from the previous year. The ministry also got more money for infrastructure development, more than $323 million more, pushing the budget up to $2.4 billion. Both allocations are from the government's purse. However, this is not enough to fund all the critical projects needed to sustain the development of the sector. So more money will come from Jamaica's multilateral and bilateral partners. This money amounts to a little over $1 billion, an increase of over $339 million from the previous year. With these funds, the Ministry of Agriculture will ensure that the sector continues to grow. Its primary focus: expansion of programs such as agri-parks, increased production of Irish potato, ginger and turmeric, as well as import substitution. The food safety infrastructure and systems program will also be strengthened. On the recurrent side of the budget, funds will go towards capacity building of resources and personnel. And so, with a drive to increase production, money set aside for the National Irrigation Commission will ensure that systems are installed on agri-parks and that general infrastructure is maintained. The Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, will facilitate the training of farmers, office and field staff and extension officers. It will also continue its soil conservation measures and implement micro-projects under its Rural Development Program. The Jamaica Agricultural Society will use $200 million to help vulnerable farmers with production efforts by providing seedlings, spraying equipment, fertilizers, plant protection chemicals, feed and day-old chicks. The agriculture budget also gives priority to getting youth involved in agriculture. From the more than $204 million allocated to the Jamaica 4-H Club, $6 million will go towards on-the-job training for 1,000 clubites and to set up a 4-H multipurpose cooperative around peanut production. An island-wide training program will come from the remaining $198.2 million, with 9,500 clubites being trained in various agricultural skills. But that's not all for the 2015-2016 fiscal year. Capacity strengthening continues with research stations such as Bodles, Montpelier and Orange River receiving a combined allocation exceeding $96 million. To maintain food safety at our borders, the Plant Quarantine and Produce Inspection Unit will spend $233.3 million to ensure exported and imported products are free from pests and disease and that quality standards are maintained. Further support will come in the area of phytosanitary research, which certifies disease-free plant material, exotic pests and pathogens. Another $25 million will be used to fund technical support and plant protection research. Meanwhile, the implementation project for the Food Safety Modernization Act received $23 million to ensure compliance with international food standards, thus allowing Jamaican foods access to leading markets. And the National Animal Identification and Ear Tagging Project gets more than $15 million to carry on work which started in 2014. Under the Capital A budget, the full $2.4 billion will go towards the Sugar Transformation Project. Projects funded by multilateral and bilateral partners through the Capital B estimates of expenditure include the Agricultural Competitiveness Program, the diversification of the Caribbean livestock through the production of small ruminants, enhancing the resilience of the agricultural sector and coastal areas, Jamaica Banana accompanying measures, and promoting community-based climate resilience in the fisheries sector of Jamaica. So as the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries puts strategic plans in place to drive economic growth, increase production and ensure food safety, it's also putting the funds in place to carry them out.
Government health centers and hospitals have an adequate supply of paracetamols like Panadol and Cetamol to treat the chikungunya virus. Paracetamol in the public health sector is free of cost. For more on chikungunya and the medication, call the Ministry of Health toll-free at 1-888-1-LOVE. That's 1-888-663-5683. Mondays to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Measles, mumps, and rubella are potentially dangerous childhood diseases. Parents, ensure your children get the MMR vaccine to protect them. The first shot should be given when children are between 12 and 15 months old, and another before they start school. Women of childbearing age should also ensure they get the MMR vaccine, as they could transmit dangerous conditions to their children if infected while pregnant. To know more, visit your nearest clinic or health center or contact the Ministry of Health.
The government continues to promote preventive health care and wants more Jamaicans to adopt healthy lifestyle choices. This is important for tackling the many non-communicable diseases, including those which affect the heart. In this next feature, we look at what can be done to avoid preventable heart disease, which is the #1 cause of death in Jamaica.
We often associate the heart with emotions of joy and feelings of affection. Its image, even its pounding beat, has a firm link to expressions of love. But despite this much fondness, we have a tendency, without much thought, to put our hearts at risk of damage and, as a result, our lives in danger. How? Simply through improper diet and inadequate physical activity.
The evidence is well established and well known that a balanced diet is among the behaviors crucial to a healthy heart and circulation system.
And based on a 2008 Health and Lifestyle survey, most Jamaicans are not eating enough fruits, vegetables, and peas and beans and are not as physically active as they should be.
The society has seemingly been taken with the bag juice, a love of processed and fast food with high salt, sugar, and fat content in these modern days. This is wreaking havoc on individuals' health and the resources of the health sector.
Having identified those factors believed to be contributing to the current trend in heart disease, the #1 cause of death in Jamaica and the Caribbean, we must take the steps to avoid the dangers. Steps that include proper portion sizes and making healthy food choices. The Ministry of Health, in partnership with non-government organizations such as the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, is encouraging healthy eating habits to reduce the incidences of heart disease.
We continue to recommend healthy food choices in schools and other public institutions and promote the consumption of a variety of fruits and vegetables daily and the reduction of salt and fats in your diet. 30 minutes of physical activity per day at least 3 times per week, and to make physical activity a part of your daily routine.
The ministry has also developed a manual on physical activity for the workplace to ensure that even while we work, we can enjoy the benefits of exercise. Eating just the required amount of nutrients has been proven to provide a healthy heart and circulatory system, while overindulging gives rise to cardiovascular diseases such as hypertension. And it's been found that heart disease is more common among people with hypertension or high blood pressure.
What hypertension does to the vessels we call arteries, which carry blood to the tissues. It causes a thickening of the wall of the arteries, the pulse we feel. The heart is getting bigger. It should require more blood, and it does. But at the same time, that pressure is also limiting the blood flow by causing hardening and narrowing of the vessels. So it's small wonder then there comes a time when the heart is going to be, its function is going to be seriously jeopardized.
Chronic kidney disease, another potential complication of hypertension, is also a contributor to the development of heart diseases. Since these diseases, which are common in adults, have been found to have their genesis in childhood years, eating healthy must start with our children.
If we can have an influence on our children with the intake and guide them on how they eat, we will start preventing generation after generation. A healthy child is one who eats fruits and vegetables.
To maintain good health, nutritionists recommend including items from all the food groups in our diets in the appropriate portions.
Challenge yourself. Don't eat processed food. Let's eat more natural, wholesome food, where sodium is extremely low and natural. Let us try and eat 1 packaged food a day, but let us incorporate an average of 5 servings of fruit and vegetables. A serving is just an orange, just a banana, maybe 2 cups of lettuce, or 1 cup of pumpkin, or a cup of callaloo. That's all that a serving is.
Nutritionists also recommend that we avoid fried foods and instead broil, oven roast, and steam. It is important also to limit sugary beverages and foods with added sugars. The daily recommended intake for sugar is 6 teaspoons for women and 9 teaspoons for men. As it relates to sodium or table salt, our body needs less than 1 gram per day, and that's less than half a teaspoon. Measuring the quantity of sugar, salt, and fats requires us to be vigilant, reading labels and taking note of their quantity in each serving. In seeking to help Jamaicans make the shift from current unhealthy eating habits, the Ministry of Health has moved to provide food-based dietary guidelines. The availability of these guidelines and practical use by each of us is expected to result in a healthier nation with less non-communicable diseases. We'd be avoiding early deaths from heart conditions. So let's live more and love more. Let's make our food our medicine for good hearts and good health.
If you not get it, you will lose. Make your food be your medicine, your food. Blend up your carrot with the lettuce in a juice.
Know your numbers and control the keys to a healthier heart. Know the numbers for your blood pressure, cholesterol level, blood glucose level, and your weight and body mass index. Find out the risks they represent and what you need to do to stay healthy. Talk to your doctor and start making healthy lifestyle choices to prevent a heart attack or stroke.
The government strongly believes there is no need for a referendum on whether Jamaica should adopt the Caribbean Court of Justice as its final court of appeal. So on April 28, the House of Representatives will vote on bills to make the CCJ our final appellate court. Ahead of that momentous date, we continue to share with you the facts on the regional court.
From community outreach, court tours to annual law mooting competitions for law students across the region, the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, has definitely stamped its mark across the Caribbean. Thanks for joining us for the final edition of a three-part series on the CCJ. This week, as promised, we look at its progress since its installation, examine Jamaica's position on using the CCJ as our final court of appeal, and look to the future. 7 years have passed since the inauguration of the CCJ, and since then, the court has ruled in several cases, making landmark decisions. Speaking with journalists from across the region, President Sir Charles Byron was only too proud to outline some of the achievements of the court.
In statistical terms, 12 matters have been filed. In our appellate jurisdiction, between July 2005 and June 2012, 94 matters have been filed. The number of senior counsel appearing before the CCJ in these matters has been 45, and the number of junior counsel 130. The number of appeals indicate beyond doubt that there has been an increase in appeals to the final court.
In addition to the growing number of appeals, it is also believed that the court has impacted the rulings of other judges across the region. CARICOM member states have also responded well to the CCJ.
I think they're very happy with it. Guyana in particular has had particular benefits from the CCJ because they had left the Privy Council years ago, but they didn't have a court of appeal beyond their local court of appeal. And I know, for example, in property matters and land matters, there have been a number of appeals from Guyana to the CCJ, which have put their law on a clear footing because there were a lot of confusion, which has been sorted out by the CCJ.
So, what's required for Jamaica to adopt the CCJ as its final court of appeal? Will a referendum be necessary?
A referendum is required where you are amending what's called a deeply entrenched provision of the Constitution. The provision that deals with the Privy Council is not entrenched at all, actually, because it was always envisaged that Jamaica would one day no longer adhere to the colonial court. Many countries of the former British Empire have adopted their own final court and left the Privy Council. None have had a referendum, including countries such as New Zealand and Canada. The only one that has had a referendum is St. Vincent. And the reason there was because their constitution specifically required it. We don't want to politicize the CCJ issue. We think it's an issue that should be done by consensus. And as part of repatriating our sovereignty, bringing our sovereignty home from London as a nation that's 50 years old.
Senator Golding adds that a referendum can be costly. The country could spend about $700 million to hold one. A 2/3 majority vote in the House is all that's required. It's true that the CCJ has a long way to go, but already there are high expectations.
I see the CCJ becoming an integral institution for the region, ensuring that the attempts to integrate from a trade and economic perspective is done in a cohesive and balanced way.
But for now, CCJ President Sir Charles Byron will be satisfied as long as the court continues to prove its worth.
The most important thing for me would be for the court to assist in ensuring that there are generally accepted performance standards throughout our region. The first one has to do with the timeliness of case delivery. throughout our region. I think that's the #1 complaint that I've come across, that cases stay in the system for too long. And I think that as a final court of appeal, we are very interested in trying to see this improved.
And that's where we leave you on Get the Facts. For more information on the CCJ, visit CaribbeanCourtOfJustice.org. The CCJ, your people, your region, your court. Thanks for watching.
Each time you're not paying full attention to the road environment, the greater your chances of getting in a crash like that. Plan routes to avoid focusing on GPS systems, prevent children from roaming in motor vehicles, turn down the volume of car stereo systems, pull off the roadway if you have to use mobile devices, do not read, watch television or eat while driving, avoid multitasking, and keep conversations with other passengers to a minimum. Whether you walk, ride or drive, avoid potentially fatal distractions.
Maranatha Music Program Ministry presents Men in Praise on Sunday, March 29 at the Maranatha Gospel Hall, 7 Deanery Road, Kingston 16. Starting time 6 p.m. Come join in the praise. The Education Department of the Kentcott Seventh-day Adventist Church, in partnership with the Aeolians of the Oakwood University of Huntsville, Alabama, USA, presents a benefit concert to be held on March 7 at the Carl Hendrickson Auditorium, Jamaica College, starting at 8 p.m. The event will be held under the distinguished patronage of the President of the Jamaican Senate, Senator Floyd Morris. The Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, JCDC, is now accepting entries for the 2015 Jamaica Creative Writing Competition. Professional and amateur writers are to submit their entries in 3 classes: junior, under 12, intermediate, under 17, and adult age 18 and older, in areas such as poems, essays, short stories, plays, and novels. Entry forms are available at the JCDC website, www.jcdc.gov.jm, at its head office, 3 to 5 Phoenix Avenue, Kingston 10, and all JCDC parish offices island-wide. Entries must be sent via email to library@jcdcj.gov.jm. Then 3 hard copies along with the completed entry form are to be submitted to any JCDC office. The deadline for entry is Thursday, April 30, 2015. The Arden High School PTA is inviting you to its fundraising benefit performance of the play Old Fire Stick. The play will be held on Saturday, March 7 at the Theatre Place, 8 Haining Road, New Kingston, starting at 8 p.m. Come out and support this worthy cause. Call 978-1112 for tickets and email ardenhighschoolpta@yahoo.com. And that's it for our community notices today. Send us your events for broadcast on the JIS Community Notice Board. Call 922-868-022 or send an email to cbishop@jis.gov.jm.
Hi there, I'm Simone Wolf with your JIS News of the Week. Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller officially launched Jamaica's national nutraceutical industry on Thursday, asserting that it was time for Jamaica to tap into the multi-million-dollar global industry. She called on Jamaicans to come forward with their ideas in the agro-processing, health and wellness sectors.
The possible economic benefits for Jamaica are tremendous. Thousands of new jobs can be created through mass cultivation and employment in labs and processing plants.
Before that, the Prime Minister was in the Bahamas and assured members of the Jamaican diaspora in that country that the Jamaican government would be assisting them to meet criteria under the recent immigration policy changes in the Bahamas. Under the new rules, which took effect on November 1 last year, everyone must have the passport of their nationality and, if they are not a Bahamian, a valid residency or work stamp.
I want to assure you that the government of Jamaica, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is moving to ensure that all the members of the Jamaican community, including persons of Jamaican descent, will be afforded a Jamaican passport once their citizenship application has been approved. You must ensure that you take steps to legalize your status if you have not already done so.
Another phase of government's program to add 78 megawatts of energy to the national grid has gotten off to a smooth start with the recent groundbreaking for construction of the 34 megawatt wind plant by Blue Mountain Renewables BMR in St. Elizabeth. To get the 78 megawatts of energy, this project will add to Wigton's 24 megawatt facility, for which ground was recently broken, and WRB Enterprises' 20 megawatt solar plant, which will come on stream shortly. Energy Minister Philip Paulwell says all three projects represent a combined $22 billion investment.
That will record growth in our economy, and very importantly for us, the creation of jobs, J-O-B-S.
In the meantime, the Science and Technology Minister is asserting that government will deliver on its promise of number portability by the end of May this year, pointing out that number portability was among the conditions government imposed for the Lime-Flow merger. Minister Paulwell emphasized that Jamaica would not return to a telecommunications monopoly.
I want to assure you that as the person was involved in liberalizing and making sure that in whatever joint ventures that emerge, that there is the preservation of competition.
The Ministry of Education has embarked on a major $100 million project to install flush toilets at primary schools which currently use pit latrines. The primary school sanitation project is being jointly undertaken with the charity organization Food for the Poor. It will initially target 50 institutions where renovations will be carried out over the next 3 to 4 months. It was recently launched at the Boise Content Primary School in St. Catherine, where the first sanitary facility has already been completed.
Today, we are in this place, and as a stepping stone to the 50 other schools that we have contracted with Food for the Poor to make these changes, we are beginning to realize that dream.
Food for the Poor's partnership with government to build or upgrade 50 early childhood schools in honor of Jamaica's 50th independence anniversary was fulfilled this week. The 50th school, New Testament Early Childhood Development Center, was handed over on Tuesday.
Today we can say mission accomplished. However, our journey in contributing to the development of Jamaica's education system has not ended. Our organization remains committed to our children and to constructing suitable structures for their upliftment. In this regard, under our ongoing projects portfolio, 8 schools are currently at various stages of construction.
The $150 million project was completed 18 months ahead of time. And finally, the Ministry of Health has begun research into the chikungunya outbreak in Jamaica to fully determine the extent of the outbreak and understand how it has affected the country. Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Marian Bullock-DeCass says the ministry is working with national and regional health researchers on the study. The findings will help officials develop guidelines for the management of chikungunya in Jamaica. The ministry will also use the opportunity to get accurate numbers of persons affected. And those were some of the stories making news this week. I'm Simone Wolf.
That brings us to the close of today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. But we want you to keep the link. Hit us up on Twitter, JIS News, and visit us on our website, jis.gov.jm, for the very latest government information. You can also send an email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Join us again tomorrow for another interesting edition of Jamaica Magazine. Until then, do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.